Kyle Klingman with Track Wrestling. We have Eric Akin, full-time All-American for Iowa State and one team member in 1999, reached the finals of the Olympic trials in 2000 and then 1996 before that. Welcome, Eric.
Thanks, Kyle.
Great to have you on. You're also, I forgot to mention this, you're also the head wrestling coach at St. Thomas Aquinas in Kansas. You liking that role?
Yeah, I've been there 5 years, and it's exciting. I like it. You know, it's kind of fills that space that you had, you didn't have when you competed, and then you stopped competing, and you get to coach, and, it fills some of that void because there's nothing like competition.
Why'd you keep going as long as you did in competition? You strung it out as long as possible. Talk about the void.
I think I just love competing so much, I got my dog barking in the background, but I love competing, man. I love the just the competitiveness between the competitors and, who you're competing against, your rivals, the guys you got to beat, and how they would push you to be a better person and train harder and just all around improve your character values, just trying to reach a goal like that. And just the spirit of competition and the feeling you get from winning a match or a big match or an overtime or a tournament. I mean, there's no feeling like it. It's incredible. I mean, there are feelings like it, but you have to find them, and you got to have goals and to search for them.
So it's that feeling that drives you back, even though you're not at your best, and there's probably a good chance you're not going to make a world team or make the team. It's just the competition, huh?
Yeah, and I mean, maybe you're not supposed to be the best guy, but it's that every time you go to a competition, your goal is to beat one of those guys you're not supposed to beat, and make coaches and fans and whoever say, whoa, he beat that guy. He wasn't supposed to beat him. And that's what you train for. That's what I train my wrestlers for. And that's what I tell them all year long. It gets down to crunch time. We go to those big tournaments, go to regionals and state. And before state every year, I tell them, we train all year to go there and not just beat the guys we're supposed to beat. We go there to beat the guys we're not supposed to beat. And that's a great feeling when you climb that mountain and get to that next plateau.
What's that like, wrestling at the Olympic trials? We just missed out on the Olympics for 2020. It got postponed, but just that drive toward it. You made the Olympic trials in 96 and then again in 2000, but to be on that big stage, what's that like?
I kind of forgot. No, not really. But I mean, it's a great feeling, watching the Olympic trials and the world team trials every year. I try to go to them every year, or I watch them on the computer, but it brings back that feeling, and you're like, man, I know what that feels like. That was awesome. And it was, it's fulfilling to watch it and be like, man, I'm glad I stuck it out and trained for all that and went to all those events and did it. But, watching it now, it's healthy. It feels good to see it and see those guys doing what they're doing, and how hard they're training. There's so many good American wrestlers right now. It's just incredible.
You're from Kansas and you went to Iowa State. What was the wrestling culture in Kansas when you were growing up?
My area wasn't real strong, Eastern Kansas, but Western Kansas had, rural areas, and it's a lot of tough farm boys and strong kids. So they kind of dominated our part of the state. And then my dad and a few coaches got together and started a club called the East Kansas Wrestling Club in the mid-'80s. And all the schools and people around, we just combined, and we got better, steel sharpened steel. And that kind of pushed me to a new level as I came through junior high and high school. So I was prepared to go to the national events like cadets and juniors and make a mark and get a scholarship and make it to the D1 level.
I think you got recruited by Jim Gibbons before he left, and then Bobby Douglas came in. Is that the right timeline there?
Yeah, Gibbons recruited me, and then I redshirted and had 2 years under under Jim and Joe, Adam Darengowski, Kevin Jackson. That's most of the guys that were part of the staff then. Bobby came in my junior year. So I got a really good variety of coaching with those two staffs, because everyone that came through there with Gibbons and with Douglas were all top-notch guys that I learned a lot of stuff from.
What was Iowa State like at that time? I mean, you guys were right in the hunt. It was really good Cyclone teams. Did you feel like you were just chasing Iowa the whole time?
Yeah, pretty much. That was the team to beat. And usually at that, whatever weight class you were, that was the guy to beat. And your Iowa guy at that time was either number 1 or number 2 in the country. And, we had good teams. We placed, top 5, I think, every year. But at the time, it didn't seem that good, because you wanted to win a national title. You look how competitive it is now that you're done, and you see the top 5 teams, and you see how hard it is to even crack the top 5 or the top 10. So it was an honor to be a part of a program that tough. Would have been nice to win a national title as a team, but no regrets.
How about one of your teammates, Steve Hamilton? How crazy was that dude?
Yeah, he was a crazy guy. He could work really hard. That's what made him the craziest, is how hard he could go. And not only would he work hard and had a great work ethic, but what made him a great wrestler is he could wrestle when he was dog tired. I mean, he'd be breathing, he'd be turning red, he'd be sweating, but he'd still be going 110 miles an hour.
Your quote when you left Iowa State and you went to the Hawkeye Wrestling Club, of course, rival there, as you said, when I was at Iowa State, I was a boy. When I went to the Hawkeye Wrestling Club, I became a man. What did you mean by that?
Nothing towards any programs. I mean, nothing towards Iowa State. Basically, I wasn't my best when I graduated college, and I learned that a couple of years later as I started to develop more into a young man, and get my man muscles and my facial hair and develop as a wrestler, and just became more mature as far as tactics and training and things like that. But I mean, 5, 6, 7 years later, when I wasn't at the Hawkeye Club anymore, I was more of a man then than I was there. I mean, I got better every year. I got smarter every year. My training got better. My diet got better. So by the time it was time to retire, I mean, the wheels were just coming off the hot rod. I mean, I used them till they ran out. So, but my mind and my knowledge, I feel like I've still continued to learn more wrestling as a coach and know more about mental preparation and mindset and all those things.
You graduated from college in 1994, and then you went to Hawkeye Wrestling Club shortly thereafter. That was still in that window when Dan Gable was the head wrestling coach. He retired in 1997, would have been the head guy of the Hawkeye Wrestling Club. What did Gable do for you? Did you like his training methods, and do you feel like he brought the best out of you?
Well, yeah, I mean, he did a lot for me. I mean, besides just getting to know him and be a friend, but just to see what kind of character, I mean, just as a man, who he is, like the example he sets, even if it's not for wrestling, but just how to live and his mindset about how to operate and stay focused and all those things. But the wrestling side of it, yeah, it helped me a lot. Just he was the best in the world at the time. He had the best college program. He had the best guys in the world training there. He had world champions, the Brands brothers. He had NCAA champions all over the room. So, I mean, it just raised me to a new level that I wanted to get to. And I look back at it now, and it was a real fortunate time to be there. It was his last years. It was a historic time. And so I got to watch his last couple of years that he coached all those guys, and like what he would say to them before practice, and how he would coach them during practice, and how he would deal with them outside of the room, outside of practice time. And just the book that they wrote about those last 2 years, the guy that wrote it, and I read through it, and he describes moments where, things I experienced and watched, and it was pretty cool being a fly on the wall and being a part of that program. And You know, at the same time, right before that, when Bobby Douglas came to Iowa State, he was like the world team coach and the Olympic coach, 92 Olympic coach, and on all the world team staff. So he would drag me as a college kid to all these world team and Olympic team camps starting in 92. So I was one of the only college kids in those rooms. At the time, they were being held at Foxcatcher. So I got to spend a lot of time at Foxcatcher as well and learn stuff from Dave Schultz, meet Dave Schultz, become friends with Schultz and Dan Chade and Ed Geezy, all the guys that were training out there, Brian Dolph. So I got to be a fly on the wall in that little part of wrestling history as well, and learn from those Olympic guys and train with them those few years, my last couple of years in college. And that really helped me a lot. But I look back at those things now and I'm like, man, I was a fly on the wall in Gable's last couple of years. I was there. I was at Foxcatcher right before it came to the pinnacle of everything that happened with Schultz and DuPont. And before that, I got to learn a lot from those people. So it was a real valuable experience in the path I was on, you know, how Bobby Douglas came in and took over for Jim Gibbons, and then me moving to Iowa and getting to know the Branses and Gable and the whole Hawkeye community.
What was that like training with the Brands boys? I'm sure you had to go with those guys every day.
Yeah, quite a bit. I mean, in that kind of room, you're wrestling a top level guy every day, and you don't have to have the same partner. So I got to wrestle all those guys quite a bit, but just the intensity being around them in the practice room and how hard they would work, or maybe something they yelled out or whatever. I mean, that stuff motivated me. I loved it. That's why I went there. I wanted to be around those guys. I was around them at those world team camps I just talked about when I was in college. And that was when they won the worlds, like 93, 94, 95. And I would go in the sauna after practice. I would go in there, and Tom and Terry would be in there, and they'd be doing curls with the rubber hose thing and just getting after it. And I just liked who they were and what they were about. And they were like, man, you should, when you get done at Iowa State, you should come over to Iowa and train with the Hawkeye Club. And I was, you know, that's all they had to say. I was like, I'm there.
When you got to the Olympic trials in 1996, you got all the way there, had a shootout with Lou Rosselli. I'd like to just go through that match 3 and what that was like, and if you had to analyze it now, what you think you could have improved on.
Well, one thing would start in match 2. He got a takedown and a leg lace on me, and he was up by, I think, like 3-1 or something, and there wasn't much time left, and he was trying to leg lace me some more. And I fought it. I fought it for a long time. I think he turned me again. He might have beat me like 4 or 5-1 in that match. But my legs were really, really sore after that match. My calves were killing me. Had to get a massage and take some vitamins and replenish a little bit, recover. And so I was ready to go after that. I was surprised. I mean, I could barely walk after the match. I was like, oh my gosh, what did I do? You know, and I'd heard Gable before say at practice, at Hawkeye Club practice, he was like, hey, if you're in a lace and you're not going to, he described the whole situation. He's like, just don't fight it at that point. You know, you're done. Get ready for the next one. And, but I didn't do that. And so I'm not using that for an excuse, but that did take some out of my legs. Match 3, it was going good. I was winning on criteria, I think it was 2-2. I don't remember the score really. 1-1, 2-2. But I had criteria. I had it wrapped up. There was about 50 seconds left. I was a little excited, and I went to take him down again. I'm like, I'm going to shoot again, and I just whiffed on a sweep single, and I sat down right in front of him, and there he was behind me. He even went like this with his hands, like, whoa, what just happened? And but it was a great match. I mean, there were some scrambles in that match where I can't believe I didn't give up a point, or he didn't give up a point. And it was amazing. It really even got to the point it was at, because there was some near misses by both of us. But, you know, it was right there. I mean, I was seconds away, but You know, it was fortunate. I was fortunate just to be there. I'm grateful that I was in that match. It was a really exciting Olympic trials. It was in Spokane, Washington. No, wait, was it Seattle? It was in Seattle, I think. And I mean, they had like 10,000 fans. They packed the house. It was loud. It was crazy. It was nice. They do a good job in Washington. We had the World Team Trials in Spokane in '99, and it was packed too.
And then 2000, I got to think it's maybe the best you've wrestled or the most heart you've wrestled is that you came from behind and beat Steven Abbas, who's certainly one of the all-time greats, beat him to wrestle Sammy Henson in the finals of the 2000 Olympic trials. How'd you keep in that match and stay so composed?
Man, I just kind of went into that blur, you know, where you just do things right and or you make something happen, and you might even be at the time or after the match like, whoa, how'd I do that? But it's the Olympic trials, and it's one of the best wrestlers in the world, and it's 12,000 people, and you got to do good. You got to entertain, you know, and it's your goals and everything. And it was a really tough challenge bracket. We had Mike Minna, we had Lou Roselli, we had Abbas, we had me, a couple other guys. And then we had Sammy Henson waiting on us. So, I mean, I was a little worn out at the time. I forgot who all I went through. I think I wrestled Roselli, Minna, and somebody else. And then I wrestled Abbas. And it was a really close match. He hit me in a crazy move. I had a front headlock, and we're on our feet. And I went to hit my front headlock on him that I'd hit before on him. And he must have studied it. And as I hit it, he hit a back handspring. And we just flew through the air. I remember bouncing on my butt out of bounds, and I looked up, and the ref's holding up 3 for him. And I was like, whoa, no way, that was my move. And I knew I needed a big move. I needed to take him to his back, and somehow I hit a duck, caught his knee, caught him to his back, and he spun off like a cat right away. We got into a crazy scramble after that. Somehow he ended up on top. I reversed him and tied it, ended up with the leg lace. And I saw the clock, and it said about 7 seconds, and I knew how much juice it takes to get this leg lace over. And I thought for a millisecond, should I save my energy for overtime, or should I try to squeeze this out? And I hit like a little cartwheel, and somehow I bounced over, took a 2-point lead. He came up on top with a 1-point reversal. Time ticked off the clock, and I knew, like, whoa, I just won that match. And it was a big match for me, not only to get into the final match for the Olympic trials for the Olympic spot, but I don't think Abbas had beaten me yet. I think that was like my 5th or 6th win on him. And they were all from U.S. Open, World Team Trials, and Olympic trial matches, no other tournaments. And so I kind of wanted to win it because of that too, you know, but also I won several challenge tournaments. I ended up winning challenge tournament 5 times in my career. So that might be the toughest tournament in America, the challenge tournament for the trials, world team or Olympic trials. But I wanted to win it because of that too.
Why do you say that? It's interesting to comment there that that's the toughest tournament, especially you being through the NCAAs and everything else. Why is that the toughest?
It just is. I mean, you got the top 8 from U.S. Open, and then you got whoever won the regionals, and that's usually someone that's top 8 at the U.S. Open. So you have 8 to 10 maximum, maybe the NCAA champ, and it's basically the toughest 10 guys in America, and you wrestle all of them, and then you wrestle the guy waiting who won nationals, you know, so the number 1 ranked guy in America. And it's tough for him too, because he wrestles the hottest guy in the country right now. Hoover won that challenge tournament. It's on a roll. He's hot. He just won 4 matches, 3, and against pretty good guys.
How are you liking coaching high school wrestling right now?
I like it. It's really fun. It goes really fast. I mean, the season flies by, and I mean, before the season's over, I start missing the guys because I know, like, I'm not going to see them for a little bit. You know, not all of them. A lot of them play football or track. A good handful do freestyle and stuff like that. So a lot of them we get to work with year round.
You feel like wrestling's developing quite well in Kansas?
Yeah, it's doing it. We got a really tough class right now. Not just a class, just like the whole era that's in high school right now. We have quite a few kids. I think you're going to see quite a few kids end up at every division in college over the next few years. We've kind of already, you know, that process has started the last few years. You know, we've gotten a little more each year.
What's it take to get to the next level when you're in high school and the skills you're trying to implement to those kids? What are you telling them to make that step?
Well, you got to you got to do the right stuff all the time, and you got to get enough of the right stuff, and you can't get too much. But you definitely have to get enough wrestling almost year round. But I don't think these kids need to wrestle totally year round like a lot of them do. I don't think it's necessary for development. I think you need time off. Think you need to lift weights. I think you need to run a lot. I think you need to do other sports, because you meet more people, you make more relationships. You know, basically you want to get as good as you can. We want to reach all these goals, but at the end of the day, the thing that makes me most valuable as a wrestler or coach or a human being are the relationships and the experiences that I've gotten from from this whole wrestling journey, because those things last for a lifetime. Any title that I got, any medal, junior nationals, cadet, and college, All-American, whatever, that doesn't add value to me. It might hang on a wall, it might be in a box, but it doesn't stick with me. It sticks with me the rest of my life as a label. But the things that stick with me are the relationships and the experiences that make me better. It's a big journey. It's a mountain climb. And, you know, sometimes you fall down, sometimes you got to get back up. And every day you have every day gives you opportunities. Every opportunity gives you a choice. And every choice will make you stay the same on the mountain, go down the mountain, or go up the mountain. So just take it one day at a time and keep it like that. That's what I tell my guys.
Yeah, you talked about the challenge tournament, though, and some of the relationships. You had a deep weight class. You had Zeke Jones, world champion, silver medalist at the Olympics. You had Sammy Henson, world champion, silver medalist at the Olympics. You had Stephen Abbas, silver medalist at the Olympics. You had Lou Rosselli. I mean, the list goes on and on. Did it feel good knowing you came through such a tough era of 114 pounders or 119 whenever it changed the weight classes?
Yeah, it really did. I mean, I wouldn't change it. I love the way it was, you know, what my path was, and the guys I had to go against. I respect all those guys a ton, and I care about them. They're really important people in my life. They played a role that gave me the opportunity to be me and to wrestle. I mean, if I was the only wrestler in the world, I'd be begging people, come on, try this sport. It's fun. Here, I'll teach you. You know, let's find someone that can beat me, or let's find someone as good as me so it's more fun, you know. So when you're competing at the time, those aren't people that you want to hang out with and stuff all the time. But you realize at some point that they're exactly like you. They want the same thing. They have the same goal. They're the same weight class. They're in the same sport. They have a lot of the same mindsets. So people like Sammy Henson, you know, he's someone that I talk to still quite a bit. You know, we pick each other's brains. We talk about the old times. We talk about the matches we got into. We argue about who has a harder head. And, you know, so, I mean, I went through a really tough era. I mean, I wrestled every Olympian and have at least one win against every Olympian from 92 to 2000, I think, 2004. So Zeke, Jones, Rosselli, Henson, Abbas, 92 to 2004. And those guys all have wins against me too. But those guys were my best training partners. I didn't train with them, but I mean, that's what I trained for, those people, you know, and that's what pushed me.
When you're in that mode though, and you're training against them, how do you view your competition when you're actually in competition?
Um, you hope they slip and fall and twist their ankle. No, but you want everything right going for you. You want the right people wanting you to win, or you want the right people not wanting you to win. You want the haters. So it motivates you more. And you want everything to favor you. That's how it is. You want to be the man, but you still care about him as a human being. I remember one time at the Olympic Training Center, playing cards in a room one time, me and Sammy Henson, a couple other guys, because me and Sammy were still friends, but, we competed. And we started arguing about who wanted. I was like, no, they all want you to win. And he's like, no, they don't. They want you. You're their boy. And I'm like, no, you are. We were arguing about it. And it was an example of how our mindset, we both fed off that kind of stuff. Like, there's people that think I can't do this, or don't want me to, or don't like me. So that's going to make me want to do it more.
Sounds like you got a nice addition coming in to help you at the high school. Tell us about the All-American you have coming in as an assistant.
Yeah, we got Joey Laser, wrestled at University of Northern Iowa, and he's a Georgia native, and he's a real scrappy dude, real scrambly. I always like watching him wrestle. So he's moving to the Kansas City area. He has a teaching job, and he's going to be coaching with us. We need him. We got a couple of tough kids that need a guy like that, a jackhammer to beat the debris off the stone, shine it up.
Well, why don't you do this? Now that we have the Olympics delayed a year, let's have you go in at 74 kilos and bang it out with those guys.
74, what is that, 163?
Yeah, that'd be Burroughs and Dake. You can take those guys.
Yeah. I might be able to stop their gut.
Got them. So
I'll be there watching. I love watching those guys. These guys are incredible these days. Not just their wrestling talent, but just, guys like Jordan Burroughs, like not just him, but the things he says, the things he tweets, and the way that he acts like a role model, and how he loves his country and his fans. He's excellent. He's perfect for the sport. And Kyle Dake is too. They're awesome. Just a lot of good individuals right now representing the USA. I love it.
Got to end with this, Eric. The finals in the Kansas State tournament, you had two of the best in the country at the 220-pound finals. I'm just going to let you take it from there and what transpired in that epic match. It has to be one of the all-time great matches in Kansas high school history.
Yeah, it was. It was incredible. It's storybook. I mean, you have Kyle Haas from Mays High School, which is in Wichita, and Kyle did really good last summer. He made the world team. I think both styles junior at the in Akron at the Cadet Worlds. So he went to the Worlds, and I think he wrestled Greco at the Worlds, but he made both teams. I mean, he's a beast. He's one of the top 5 kids in the country in any weight class as far as who college coaches should be going after. And then he had Cade Lout, who's on that same list, really. And so they've gone back and forth. I've watched them wrestle since they were sophomores, maybe before. And they're both just real buff and pretty looking. They've got muscles coming out of muscles. So it came down to the end, and it went to overtime. I think it was about to end the neutral overtime. And Cade got in on a high C, and it just, you're like, how's he going to pick all this beef up? And it looked like he gave a tug, and then he stepped in and gave it hips, and he picked Kyle Haas all the way up off the mat and put him down, and got the takedown, got the win. And the crowd just went nuts. I mean, his crowd went nuts, obviously, because their guy won the state title, but it was just such an awesome wrestling match, and just a great ending, obviously not for Mays and Kyle Haas. And, they did a great job. Hats off to Kyle too. But
it was a great ending. I mean, it gave everybody the chills. I had 2 guys coming up in the state finals, had my son coming up in the state finals, and I about lost all my emotions, over it. It gave me the chills, and I was cheering like everybody else, and it was incredible.